Hey everyone, Garrett here from the Drive Back podcast, joined by Adrian.
Hey, how's it going?
And we're going to give a quick little recap. We went to Halloween Horror Nights now it was actually a week ago. This will be coming out a little over a week after we've gone, which we'll have plenty of stuff to talk about here. But first off, I want to go ahead and give a quick shout out to our friend Nadia from the horror channel Horror and More, which we went to Horror Nights with her, and she recorded quite a bit of footage. So you can see a lot of that footage down below. I'll link the video down there, and you can see some bright and smiling pictures of us getting scared. So
thanks, Nadia.
We thought we would go ahead and go through the 8 mazes of Horror Nights. We went on all of them, and we've got some thoughts. We're going to go ahead and rank those mazes. But first off, I think we should talk about the one thing that's not a maze, but it is a major attraction, and that is the Teratram. This year, in years past, it's a cycling theme. For the longest time, it used to be Walking Dead, from what I remember. And then last year, when we went, it was themed after The Purge, which was very fitting for that kind of attraction. This year, it is has to do with a character named Hollywood Harry, who is like a clown entertainer that used to work at Universal Studios and now is taking over the back lot and is having his Halloween party. But it also has a section featuring Jordan Peele, so it's going to be Nope and Us. That's going to be toward the end of the attraction. Overall, Adrian, what were your thoughts on Teratram? What do you rate it?
Yeah, I thought the clown part, the something Harry?
Hollywood Harry,
I thought that was all okay. I think the theming there was a little lackluster. It seemed like I could have thrown together kind of the pitch kind of at home. But the saving grace of the whole thing was the Jordan Peele section. Being able to walk, major spoiler, but on the actual set of Jupiter's Claim from the movie Nope, filled and populated by characters from the movie Us with their golden scissors and red jumpsuits, was absolutely incredible. They did this amazing moment, which I'm sure you were going to mention as well, but where all of the characters and scarers pause and look up at the sky in silence while all the power shuts out.
Yeah.
And it is chilling to be in it. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, and I think you
saved the whole thing.
Nailed it on the head. It saved this attraction, which last year was so strong. It was literally one of my favorite parts of the night because it was The Purge. It was everywhere. You could have anyone dressed as anything, anywhere. You could set up all these different kinds of things, and it was great. This year really feels like they didn't have a good idea going in, and they just tacked on Jordan Peele at the end to kind of try and bring in some audience members. Which
it worked.
It works. But it's a fun time. The Teratram is a must-do attraction whenever you go to Halloween Horror Nights. I don't know if they do the Teratram at Florida, but I could be wrong. I've never been to the Orlando one. But let's go ahead. Let's rate the Teratram. Adrian, what do you rate the Teratram? We're gonna do a skull rating system. So, how many skulls do you give Teratram?
Solely because of the Nope inclusion and the Us inclusion, 5 skulls out of 5.
Really? All right, cool. I didn't know if that was like I honestly paused because I thought it was going to be a joke thrown in there or something. I don't know where I was thinking.
Guess my rating is invalid.
That's not what I meant at all. I thought the thing was fine. Some of the clowns, like especially in the base motel area, it was all right. I'm gonna give it a 3.5 skulls out of 5. I think the Nope and Us section is really all of that.
It could have the reason it's 5 out of 5 just been the thing for like 5 minutes, and I would have given it I thought that section was just so cool.
Oh yeah, easily the best part. And luckily, the Jupiter's Claim set is a year-round addition to the studio tour. So when you go outside of Horror Nights, you'll still be able to drive through, which is awesome.
But not walk through, to be noted. You can walk through it right now.
Yes, that is exactly correct. But let's go ahead, let's jump into the actual house attractions for this year, and we'll go with the ones that are not branded first. So we'll kind of start there. We'll start off with La Llorona, the Weeping Woman. This is based off, not off of the movie, the Conjuring universe part of that one. It's based off the actual legend from, I believe it's South American, Central American folklore. I don't know if it's just Mexico. Unfortunately, I don't know enough about the legend. But what did you think about La Llorona?
I thought it was arguably one of the weaker ones. I wish they had the rights to the movie, because then it at least would have had some kind of theme. I will say this one does get some points because it was by far the most graphic maze out of all of them. And I guess if you're thinking about going and this kind of stuff scares you, trigger warning, there's like dead children depicted floating face down in pools. There's people eating bodies. I mean, it is by far the most visceral maze that they had. It was very shocking to see.
Which it earns a lot of points from me there. I like it when they don't hold back and they really take advantage of it being not an adults-only event, but a primarily adult audience, and kind of understanding that we want to see that kind of stuff because it's a horror thing. Yeah. And also, the horse people are fantastic. The rotting horse heads and like hoofs that come out.
Yeah, I just thought that the maze itself, like the whole thing, just felt like there wasn't it didn't feel. I don't know. I mean, it definitely had its big staple moments, like the big head eating the woman in the bed. Like all that stuff was there. To me, maybe it was because it was one of the last mazes we went through. But it did just feel a little more lackluster than some of the other ones.
Fair enough. I thought it was pretty consistent. I think it was one of the more detailed houses for sure, especially in the terms of the costumes and a lot of the sets. Walking the bridge over the drowning children was a really cool image, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna rate this bad boy. I'm gonna give it for me, I'm gonna do 3.5 out of 5. I think that it was a really detailed one. It had a lot of good scares in it. It was a lot of fun to watch other people walk through this maze, and it was pretty graphic. But at the end of the day, it was far from a standard, like kind of unlicensed house. I think it was just a little step above.
Sure. Yeah, I think this was good. I think the set of the maze was really cool. I just think like that was kind of it. Like there were large stretches of the maze that were so focused on the decorations that nothing was jumping out and scaring you and things like that. So that's kind of where I took a bit off. So I gave this one 2 skulls out of 5.
Alrighty. Moving right along, we have the next unlicensed one, which is the Universal Horror Hotel. This is basic concept. It's a 1920s hotel that was the hunting ground of an infamous serial killer, which is now a modern day hotel. He's back from the dead, and he's hunting you down. And there's maybe some cult stuff involved. You never know. Glad to see it not being the typical scapegoat satanic cult. It was something completely different, which was kind of nice. But for me, this was the weakest maze of the night. Hands down. And to be fair, I have seen a lot of other YouTube channels go through this maze, and they had a blast, which is awesome. We may just have gone through at a bad time of the night, where maybe they were in the middle of shift changes or something, because there were a lot of just empty hallways and rooms, and there weren't really that many people jumping out.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest drawback, is that I could see places where people should be hiding.
Yeah. And
nobody was there. So I was like, oh, maybe that's just like they're running around. But yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe we just caught it at a weird time or something was wrong.
And literally, I think this was the maze. We walked by one of the rooms where one of these scare actors would jump out, and it was partially open, and inside we saw the screen they look at to see where people are, which was kind of a cool look behind the scenes, but not intentional, and it kind of takes you out of that moment. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and rate Universal Horror Hotel a 1.5 skulls out of 5.
Nice. Yeah, I'll do the same. I was going to do 1 skull out of 5.
Pretty close. Let's go ahead and jump into the last unlicensed one, and that is Scarecrow the Reaping. At an abandoned Depression-era farm, vengeance takes root. The Scarecrows are avenging the ravaged land. In this all-new haunted house, the only harvest that will be reaped is your Scream Squad. That's pretty on point. Because this is probably the one, to be completely fair and transparent, we had express passes, so we did not have to wait too long in line for any of these. If you are going to Horror Nights, buy an express pass. It is so worth it.
Yeah.
Because we're not waiting in line 2 hours to go into one of these.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, so we were able to go on all of we did everything, all the rides, we did literally everything in the park.
Yeah.
And we finished about 2 hours prior to closure of Halloween Horror Nights. So you think if you don't have the express pass,
you need to come back a second night.
Yeah, you're only going to get through maybe half, if everything goes well.
Yeah.
So well worth it, yeah.
But jumping back on topic, Scarecrow, of the 3 unlicensed ones, I think Scarecrow was the best. It was the most graphic, especially having to walk through the room of the hanging animals and pushing through intestines is really kind of disturbing. Really gotta love the person on the table getting cobbed, as I like to say, with the corn cob sticking out of their mouth and chest. And also, the highlight that everyone talks about, the room where you walk through and you get bird pooped on, was an unforgettable feeling. I loved this house. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I think this was, of the unlicensed, by far the best, but also the best of all of them. This was my favorite house. I said it when we were closing the night out. I think this one was by far the best, and that might have been because this was my first time at Universal's Horror Nights. I've been to other ones around the place, but they own the rights to a lot of things, and I think that they might have had a lot more freedom with this one to kind of just make it the scares how they wanted without fitting into a property. I don't know, but this one was to me by far the scariest. There were a lot of double scares in this one, which I find super exhilarating, which is where you get scared on the right side, so you hunch down and lean to the left, and then someone comes out on the left and scares you. So the only option is for you to, like, hunch and sprint out of the room, which was awesome, and it happened multiple times in this one, and it was really, really great to see.
To multiple people in our group, which was a lot of fun. For this one, I am going to rate this one. I'll go up for it. I'll say it's a 5 skulls out of 5.
That's exactly what I was going to get. 5 out of 5.
There we go.
Yeah.
Jumping into the licensed mazes this year. The first one up, we have Universal Monsters Legends Collide. This one, it's the Wolfman versus Dracula versus the Mummy. If you thought 1 Universal monster was scary, how about 3? Summon your Scream Squad, because you're about to get caught between the Wolfman, Dracula, and the Mummy together for the first time. And they're fighting over an amulet that's supposed to be turning one of them kind of back to normal. Which this is actually a sequel. This is the part 2. This the first part of this maze is in Orlando, so there is a story that is going between the two of them. So
that's kind of cool. Didn't know that.
Cool kind of concept for those of us who have money to fly to Florida like that.
If I had any,
or to California if you're on either side of the country. You know, I'm not trying to leave anyone out here. I thought this one was fun. I think it's a cool concept to have multiple monsters battling it out, and there were definitely a couple of parts that. It got me. I know there's one part that got you, because I think you weren't expecting it. I believe it was the one mummy that was looking like it was.
Oh yeah, I was at the front for this one, and I typically don't get too jump scared at things like this, but this is probably the one that got me the whole night. There was a mummy sitting in like a sarcophagus, and it had the little chest like a gem, and it wasn't really doing anything, but I had seen it move, so then I was kind of looking at it, and then its head turned towards me. So I was like, oh, that's a cool mannequin. Like, they got, like, a little animatronic. And then it just ran at me. And that was probably the scariest thing that happened. So I do give it props for that.
I was right behind you for that one. And to be fair, I've seen a couple of the YouTube channels cover the night. And that same actor gets everyone, which is just impressive. So props to whoever's in that spot.
Yeah, I think they do a great job, that particular scare, because they scare you initially with the subtle movement. And you think that, like, that's the bit. Like, oh, okay, I've seen the scare. Like, that moves. And then it moves again. And it's really, really well done.
It's fantastically well done. Props to... also, the set design for this one was really good, I thought. Especially, like, because it's supposed to be like a shipping factory in London that you're at. And it really feels like you're inside a warehouse. Which apparently, it's called Alucard Shipping, which is Dracula backwards. Fun little Easter egg there. But on the whole, I think it was a strong one. It wasn't necessarily... bad by any stretch. It was a lot of fun, but I wouldn't say it was incredible. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to say 3.5.
Yeah, I was going to say 3 out of 5. I think it's very apt. I think that one big scare. None of the rest was really that scary. And I don't know if more monsters is better than one. I think it would have been neater to stick with either theme. I felt like it felt like 3 small houses or 3 small mazes instead of one large one. And it didn't really let me pick up on any sort of like story or cadence or anything because it kind of just was jumping between them. So
Yeah, and to be fair, they usually do mash up kind of Universal monster movies every year. Last year they had one that was Bride of Frankenstein, and it had Dracula in it, it had Frankenstein, it had Bride of Frankenstein. So they do mashups every year. They've never really done like, one monster at a time, as far as I know. They like, I'm not.
Oh, I was just referencing when they said you thought 1 was scary. How about 3? I think 1 would have been fine.
Yeah. To be fair, maybe it's just of timing when we were walking through, but I never really felt like I saw the Wolfman.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like it all happened so fast because I feel like the Wolfman was so short. Like it was at the end and it was like boop, and then it was done.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we rate that one. Moving right along, sort of in that, not the same area, but not in the main lot, we have Halloween, based off the 1978 original film. Basically, if you've seen Halloween, you know the premise. Michael Myers is stalking people on Halloween night. And, I think that the maze is better than the movie.
Yeah, I like this maze. I specifically liked one really cool part, which was the mirror maze. And I thought what they did great, it's not just a general mirror maze, you kind of get those at any carnival, but what they did is they put multiple Mike Myers mannequins in the mirror maze, as well as some real actors in there also, so you weren't sure who was moving and who wasn't, and it did really create for some really good moments of movement and scare. It was really nice.
And there's a really cool part too where one of the mirror panels, it lights up and you see Mike Myers behind it, and you're Mike Myers, donkey. No, you see Michael Myers, and then he opens a door and runs at you, and it's like, oh crap, that was a really cool effect. So
yeah,
props to him for that one. I think it's a little bit hard with this one. There's a couple of like moments, like when Dr. Loomis is shooting at Michael, that's a little kind of weird, but I
think it's a little weird because it's like so just forced, like you just know that guy's standing there, like it's not really a big scene, it just feels so generic.
It's just an iconic part of the movie that they they have to throw in, so
yeah,
it totally makes sense.
And again, that's kind of what I was talking about as being limited by the property earlier. Like that's some of the stuff that you do encounter when you do property stuff, is that kind of encounter.
Yeah. So what would you rate Halloween?
Yeah, I gave this one a 2 out of 5. I thought it had a couple of really good scares, but overall I felt like it was a little limited and a little repetitive with the same creature. I mean, I know this is counterintuitive to what I said earlier, but like there was so much Michael Myers that I felt like I became a little desensitized towards the end of just like, there he is again. Hello.
Yeah.
How are you? I'm just trying to get out.
I can definitely understand that. I'm gonna go ahead and rate this one a 3. I think it's a step above. Universal has a Halloween maze every year because they own the IP of Halloween. So last year it was like Halloween 4, I think, and this year was the original. And I think it's a step above last year's, but not by much. It was a fun maze, and that was about it. So
sure.
Moving right along, though, we have the Horrors of Blumhouse. This one has 2 movies from the famed production studio. This one deals with Freaky and the Black Phone. I'm going to go just to be honest, this was probably the maze that I was looking forward to the most. Just because, well, besides another one, which we'll talk about. This one, I loved Black Phone. Black Phone came out this year, and it is one of my favorite movies of the year. And then I watched Freaky for the first time before this, because I knew we were going to be going through a maze based on it, and really loved that movie as well. And I loved this maze. I probably had a good memory of it just because I went first. I wasn't picked, I volunteered. I will 100% tout that till the day I die. I don't know why it makes such a difference. But
that's what people that get scared get proud of.
But it definitely feels like this was meant to be a freaky maze, and then they tacked on Black Phone to the end, I think. But I still had a great time on this one. I love both movies, so watching kind of both plot points come alive was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the first portion. The first portion of the maze is done literally in sequence, like you go through the days of the movie, which is very, very cool.
Yeah.
And then it jumps to Black Phone. It's hard to say it was tacked on because the sets for Black Phone were quite elaborate.
Yeah, they're good.
It just did feel kind of like how the Wolfman felt in the other one. It just felt like Black Phone came and went so fast after being in Freaky for so long, that it didn't really feel that, I don't know, large, I guess. But there was one really cool scene. So they had little screens that said like today, and then the next day, and then a week later. and then the one that the title screen for the Black Phone was there, and it was actually a peel back screen, and the killer from the Black Phone was able to jump out, and that was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, and 100%, I want to find a replica of that mask, because this is one of the coolest masks in film in recent years. But I can't let my my love for these films get in the way. The Black Phone did have a lot of just black hallways and rooms beyond just the basement. So for this one, I'm gonna give it I'm gonna go with a 3.5 on this one as well.
Okay, yeah, I'll go with the 3 out of 5 on this one. I thought it was pretty average. I definitely wanted more. I also think they could have chosen... I get that those are like the newest movies, but I think there's better ones that make for scary mazes. And I think it was an interesting choice just because they're the newest to choose that. I get they're trying to get people in, but definitely could have made a better choice there.
100%. I mean, hopefully we can see an A24 maze next year. That would be
Man, a Hereditary and Midsummer maze would be nuts.
I don't know how you can do Midsommar because it's like all daytime, but
that's the scary part.
You feel daylight. But let's move on to one that I have really good memories about, and that is the Killer Clowns from Outer Space Maze, which we covered on the podcast last Halloween, and it was a cult favorite that we ended up both really enjoying. And this was probably my favorite maze of the night. I love the movie, but not only that, there was one clown, I don't remember exactly what part it was, that the clown got me so good. He scared the absolute shit out of me, and then
shit.
I brought a change of pants just in case. But then the clown started pointing at me and laughing, kind of like giggling, and I look at him and just out loud. He was quiet enough that I could say something and he could hear. I was like, "Hey, that's how you make a memory. Thank you so much." And then the clown just went like, "Oh," like the "aw shucks" movement. Totally made my night.
That's what we here at Disney call a magic moment.
Oh, that's my princess moment.
Yeah, that's your princess moment.
But what did you think of Killer Clowns?
Yeah, I will have to slightly disagree. I don't think it was my favorite of the night. I felt like maybe based off where I was in the line, I felt like I saw a lot of the scares happen, but none of them were really happening to me. And I also felt like, to your point, this one was a pretty well-lit maze. So I feel like I could see a lot of what was going on. It does get elevated above the rest for one particular scene with the security guard being the puppet. They did that practically, like they really did it in this maze, and it is so cool of a scene. And whoever the actor is did a great job, and that really elevated it. But the rest of it was a little it was normal. And I think I felt it was weird that I could see how the maze worked. They basically have a track in the center that the clowns can run around, so they can jump out at any point to scare you. Like the same clown can scare you here and then a second later. So like that's kind of how it works. But I felt like there weren't maybe enough people working it, kind of like maybe the hotel one for me. I felt like I wasn't getting scared that much because I was a little bit further back. So like by the time you had that scare moment, I was just entering the room. So like I didn't get to see or like even experience it. I just saw the clown kind of laughing at you.
Yeah.
So but maybe it was, again, that's what's I rate these mazes based on how they are for me, right? If you go at a peak time or during a change shift, everyone's experiences are going to be different, as well as how scared you get in general. So that's just how I felt about this one.
Yeah, and
great homage to the movie, though.
Oh, it's literally the plot of the movie to a point. And the one thing I do want to mention, too, is that every year I feel like you should have a maze that is not just scary, but also fun. And that's this one in a nutshell. Before the pandemic, they had a Ghostbusters maze, which I was so mad that I didn't go see, because apparently there was an animatronic Stay Puft Marshmallow Man at the end, and there was a toasted marshmallow smell going throughout the entire room. So I missed out on that one. Hopefully next year. But I'm gonna rate for Killer Clowns. It's my favorite one of the night, and I love the movie. I'm gonna rate it a 5 skulls out of 5.
Sure. Yeah, I'll rate this one a 3.5 out of 5. Specifically, again, I didn't really get any scares through this. I didn't really see anything that scared me, but the decoration, the plot, the quality of the paying homage to the film is really, really cool, and especially the scene that they pulled off with the security guard is well worth some points there.
Absolutely. Moving right along, we have the headline attraction. This is the last house, which is The Weekend After Hours Nightmare, which I think for some of us was our least anticipated maze, because a lot of us were kind of like, why are they doing a horror maze based off of The Weekend? And it ended up being a lot of people's favorite. which says something. And I'm not going to say it was my favorite because that was Killer Clowns, but this one was really close. I think this one was a really fun attraction, but it was also scary. Like I feel sad for poor Cassidy. The giant lizard man running at her just made her like completely shut down. The music was just like, I don't know, like you get scared, but then the next moment you're just like dancing through the line because it's the weekend, and you're like you're having a blast, and then you get scared, and you're having a blast, and then you get blasted with water because apparently water spraying on people was the name of the game this year.
For blood, they're using it to simulate blood and bird poop and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But so specifically the one that I remember from this one, I did like this one. It was one of the better ones. But when you guys, I was towards the back of the line, and you guys had gone through, but there was a real person dancing in like a nightclub, and then the weekend comes out behind her and slits her throat, and in that moment, water. I think Stacy might have gotten some of this, someone we were with, and it literally splatters like throat blood splatter, and that was a super cool moment. I do want to say though that this maze, while it was really good, I feel like it was only made good by the fact that it was the weekend. I think that if this maze wasn't themed, it would have been extremely generic and not that scary. I think if they had basically done like 80s disco as the theme, and it was the same thing but without the weekend, I think it would have been a really lackluster. I think what you're talking about, the music and the fact that the weekend wasn't it, is what elevated it. But overall, I think that maze, like physically itself, was pretty average.
Sure. So what would you rate it?
I'll give this one a 4.
Gotcha. I'm going to be a little bit close. I'm going to say a 4.5. I thought this one was pretty strong, and I love the weekend's music. So, hey,
yeah,
I'm down with it. But that's going to be it for all the houses that were at the event this year. Also worth note, there are 3 scare zones inside of Hollywood's Horror Nights this year. There is the Sideshow Freaks one, which is the main promenade area leading out to the main gate. A lot of chainsaws there, clowns, freak show type people walking around. It was all right. I think it's kind of a generic theme, but it works. The La Llorona area, the Day of the Dead, was awesome. And
yeah,
I think
some cool stuff.
While we were taking a break and eating some of the fantastic food and beverages that you can get at this event. Highly worth, if you're going to go multiple times, you should really take a night and just do like the food and drinks, and you should try and explore, which I think is
there's definitely some party areas.
Yeah.
Like if you do like a multi-day thing, yeah, definitely hang out. There's some cool places.
I would honestly, next year, if I had the courage to drive out to LA so much, I would definitely go as early as possible, a couple the first week or two, where tickets are cheapest. Just go bare admission and just go out and experience some of the food. I think that would be a great time, and then go back later with the express pass for all the events. But we were sitting there enjoying our food, and there was a shift change, and there was this poor woman sitting at a table across from us that all the actors that were leaving all scared her as they were walking by, and then all the actors that came out going into the area scared her on their way by. Especially there's a bird type character that walked up to I don't know if you saw this one, but walked up to the table and was like pecking at the cup and knocked over the cup with its beak. Fantastic scare actors in that area. And someone out there is doing the Lord's work and kidnapping children, because they had the basket on their back with the kids' legs hanging out.
That was a good one.
Get kids off the streets. They're a menace. But that, and then there's the Harry Potter area for the first time in Hollywood, having its scare area with the Death Eaters, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that was super cool. That was really, really fun. Really smoky in Diagon Alley.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, as an asthmatic, I need some representation here, because it was dicey in that area. I'm pretty fine around smoke, but in Diagon Alley, it was so caked in green smoke. There was a point where I had to hold my breath, because I was like, I can't breathe. This is crazy.
I hope they bring it back next year, because
me too.
I would want to get the temporary tattoo of the Death Eater thing on my wrist, because they go around checking people's wrists for the tattoo. And I totally want to have them see it and be like, you're good. So, I don't know, it's a lot of fun. But overall, the event is awesome. Honestly, I've been to Knott's Berry Farm, or Knott's Scary Farm down here in Southern California. Adrian, you said you've been to the Great America one up in Northern California. Yep. I in all the videos I've seen and all of the places I've been, I honestly think Universal Halloween Horror Nights is the best Halloween event at a theme park that you can go to. And that's just in my opinion. They have a higher budget. especially like not Scary Farm. You walk through those mazes and it feels like they got everything from Spirit Halloween, and it just doesn't feel as good.
Yeah, I will see that the budget was definitely the highest. I that you're able to experience things like walking on the Nope set, or like going into a Ghostbusters or a Killer Clowns from Halloween. Like, just the fact that you're able to do things so specific to things that you love. Like, if you like scary movies, they'll probably have a maze for the year that your movie comes out, if it's highly received enough. So it's like one of those things that, like, for those reasons alone, it does put it a little bit above other parks. And it's definitely worth it. After leaving, this is my first time, I definitely said I would go. But again, Express Pass, a must. I'm not waiting in those lines. Sorry, peasants.
Seeing the disappointed faces of people as we walk by is one of the best parts of the night.
I saw people trying to, like, rest their hand on our guardrail, and I was smacking them. I was like, you didn't pay to be over here.
Get your hand off my line. But that's gonna bring it. And maybe any. You want to give a final rating for Horror Nights as a whole this year?
Sure.
What did you think of your? Well, it's your first Horror Nights. What would you give Horror Nights out of 5 skulls?
Yeah, I think out of 5, I'd give it a 4. I think some things that I really would like a little. I feel like with the Express Pass, we ended a bit early. Like, I felt like maybe it's just that there weren't a lot of rides at Universal.
There's not a lot of rides, yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's the thing, is it just feels like there's not a whole lot to do after the mazes. Like, we had one meal and one drink, and then it was kind of like time to go. Whereas I feel like I would like to see maybe a little more. Maybe there's like shows that get put on for Day of the Dead, or things like play like on the stage or something. Maybe just a little bit more to kind of keep you there, and keep you engaged, and that kind of thing would make it a 5 out of 5. But 4 out of 5 for me.
I definitely think if we made it more of an event and kind of like stayed in LA and like, because I mean with the way that it all works out, you guys stayed in a hotel in LA. Me, Nadia, and our friends, we live about an hour and a half south, so we just drove home. So I definitely think there is a need to be like, we need to get out of here quicker, so it's not too late when we get home. Maybe that was a factor in it, but I definitely you could have stayed there for another 2 hours, just looking at stuff, walking through scare areas. You know. Oh,
that's what I'm saying the opposite. I feel like I wanted to stay longer, and there wasn't enough to keep me there.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I'm saying the opposite. Yeah, I'm saying I want them to do more shows or like productions on the stages. Like, we were eating in this area, a bunch of bars, and there were open stages that were just there. And I feel like it would have been cool to maybe have even like a comedian that's telling like Halloween jokes or something, like just stuff to keep you there. I don't know. It just felt like I wanted a little more from the park overall. That's why it's a 4 out of 5, not a 5.
Sure. I think for me, I think compared to last year, I think this year was a lot stronger. There were 2 more houses this year, and the mazes as a whole were better. It was also just a better experience. Had more friends this time, with you and Cassidy coming down, which was a lot more. Not saying that Kevin, Nadia, and Stacey aren't a fun time, but like having more people was definitely a joyous experience. There was more to do. It felt more like normal because it wasn't the first one after COVID. Last year was my first time going to Horror Nights. So I'm going to give it a 4.5. I think this was a really strong year. There was a lot to do in terms of the actual scary aspects. And again, Express Pass really makes it. You've got to get Express Pass if you're going to go. Yeah. I would really love to do an RIP tour, though. I think that is kind of the next level. It's a little bit more expensive, but you have a guided tour. There's exclusive things you get. Would be a really cool, fun time. So, yeah. But that's going to be it for our recap. There will be some footage spliced in here. I'll see if I can get some footage from Nadia. Maybe take
Let's cut to a clip. Oh, wasn't that great?
Yeah, it was awesome. But Adrian, if anyone wants to follow us online, know what we're doing, where can they do that?
Right here. Go ahead and subscribe. Hit the like button, hit the bell. We post on our podcast, The Drive Back, every Monday on all podcasting applications. But here on YouTube, where you're watching this, we post extra stuff like this, where we review movies that come out, we review events, we do all that kind of stuff here. So go ahead and follow us at The Drive Back Podcast.
That's absolutely right. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time here on The Drive Back.